G'day everyone, nice to be here today to give you a bit of an overview of the Strickland Metals story. So Strickland a few years ago, like most or many WA junior explorers, had a share price of about 2 cents. It's been on a bourse for about 10 years, wasn't really doing much. New management came in a few years ago, led by Andrew Bray, decided to recapitalise the company. They brought in a new asset called the Millrose Gold Project. Drilled out that project and last year sold it for about 60 million to Northern Star. So by that stage, Strickland had a share price of about 10 cents. The new management thought to themselves, how do we grow this company beyond a $100 million market cap? You know, how do we get this thing to maybe $500 million or even more? They decided they needed a new asset, a second asset to help do that. So in July this year, they finished the acquisition of the Rogozna Gold Project, which was a project that I'm very familiar with. I've been on the project for 5 years. It was owned by my private equity business, Iberia Capital. We acquired the project from Eldorado Gold in 2019, and I'll give you a little bit of a background to that. So where we are today, we're a pretty unique prospect. We've got 2 projects, both of which are cracking gold projects. Most juniors obviously very happy if you've got 1, well we've got 2. We've got over $40 million in cash and Northern Star shares, so we're fully funded. We're currently one of the more active juniors on the market. We're in the midst of an 80,000 metre drill program, and we've got a lot of growth ahead of us over the next 12 months. A little bit on the corporate structure, so over 2 billion shares on issue. That is a legacy of the fact the company has been around for over 10 years. We've got a very strong technical board. In terms of the share ownership, we've got about 20% institutional ownership. The top 20 own a bit over 50%. Okay, so on to Rogozna, and why is this project so special? So this is the sort of project that normally only sits in a major, and for the best part of 20 years, it was owned by majors in Canada. So it was previously owned by Freeport in the early 2000s. Eldorado Gold had it for 5 years. Cumulatively, they'd spent over $60 million on it. My company, Iberia Capital, spent $20 million on it. And so it's now got over 100,000 metres, over $100 million spent on it. Why is it so special? Well, we are in the Western Tethyan Belt. This is essentially Chile in Eastern Europe. Serbia has multiple giant deposits in 2 main regions. On the eastern side, we've got the Bor district. There, Zijin Mining have invested $5 billion over the last few years, both acquiring assets and building a brand new mine over the last 2 years. Where we are is in the south of the country, the Trepča Mineral District. This was once Europe's largest and highest grade zinc, lead, silver mining district, and we are in the guts of that. We've got an operating mine 4 kilometres away, and we are in a truly anomalous geological position. Because of the geology, all the majors are there. So I talked about Zijin and their investment. We've got Rio Tinto, BHP, Vale, Newmont, Kinross, Dundee, and Adriatic Metals, for those of you that don't know, have recently built the Vareš mine a couple of 100 kilometres away in Bosnia. In terms of our project, this is a massive mineral system. So this is a porphyry system. So it's about the exact opposite that you're going to get here in WA. We've got 180 odd square kilometres of tenements. Our resources sit on 2 deposits. We've actually got 4. We're currently drilling the other 2 at the moment. We're aiming to double the resource base within the next 12 or so months. These are gold and base metals rich skarn deposits, a little bit like the previous presentation. Skarn deposits are porphyry related, but the great thing about a skarn is the mineralisation is emplaced in carbonate rocks, which allows you to get a lot higher grades than you get in your typical porphyry. This is just some of our drilling results this year. As you can see, we get several 100 metre thick continuous zones of mineralisation. So this is very rare across the ASX. There's not many companies that put out these sorts of drill results. We report in gold equivalent because gold is about 60 to 70% of the metal in these things, but we also do get quite a bit of copper, and occasionally we get a bit of zinc as well. Importantly, when you're drilling these things, you don't just get the big fat 200 to 300 metre intercept, you get multiple high-grade zones within that. So we get a lot of optionality. When we think of mining these things, we can either go very large scale, which is when the majors come to site, that is exactly what they're looking for, or we can do more like an Adriatic Metals scale, 1 to 2 million tonne, just chasing the high-grade mineralisation. Our main deposit, currently our largest and the most advanced, is called Shanats. It's got about 4.6 million ounce in resource. Through the guts of that resource, you get about 14,000 ounces per vertical metre, which is just unheard of in Australia. Importantly, we obviously also get the high-grade zones within this central domain. You can see here on the left, these are just the intercepts we've drilled this year. And as you can see, we get a lot of high-grade zones. Average thickness is about 30 metres at about 3 grams gold equivalent. This is what it looks like in cross and long section. We get vertical zonation, we get an upper zone of epithermal gold-rich mineralisation, and then we get a copper-gold zone sitting beneath that. And in long section, it's over 500 metres long. So the actual ore body is about 300 metres vertically of continuous mineralisation by about 300 metres wide and 500 metres long, and that's why you get so much metal per vertical metre. Our second, probably most important deposit at the moment is Gradina, and Gradina is important because this one's a little bit simpler. It's gold only. 90% of the metal here is gold. As a result, we get really good metallurgical recovery, about 88%. Importantly, with Gradina, it's actually never been drilled near surface. All the data suggests it does come to surface, but the easiest access in this fairly rugged terrain is in the valley to the left. So previous explorers drilled from there. When you drill from that valley, you hit the ore body a few hundred metres down. We've actually just put in a road going up that hill, and we've drilled the first couple of holes trying to chase that mineralisation up to the surface. So if we get that mineralisation to surface, that obviously brings an open pit into play, or at least a very shallow underground. And we should be releasing those first results hopefully next week. Medenovats, same story. We discovered this one a couple of years ago. One of our first holes into this one hit about 350 metres at 2 grams gold equivalent, including a high-grade portion almost 100 metres thick, running about 5 grams gold equivalent. So we followed that up this year. We've now got a very nice coherent zone at the southern part of the deposit that's about 150 to 200 metres long, 50 to 100 metre thick high grade within 200 to 300 metre thick lower grade intercept. So this one we should be putting out a resource hopefully in February, March next year. And then that brings us to Kotlovi. So this is a new discovery. So one of the great things that we've been able to do under the Strickland ownership, we've had one rig dedicated just to exploration, while we've had 3 other rigs drilling resources. That first exploration rig has paid dividends. We've announced this about a month ago. We've made our first discovery under Strickland at Kotlovi. This target, just 350 metres from Medenovats, hit multiple styles of mineralisation over a 400 metre vertical intercept. It's open towards surface. We think it's going to get very close to surface, and we think this is the potential to add significant ounces to the overall project as well. And then just across the project, so when we acquired this in 2019 as Iberia, we only acquired 2 licences, the main licence, which has Shanats and Copper Canyon, and also the westernmost licence. We then stitched together the other 2 licences, so we own 90% of the whole system. The other 10% extends over the border into Kosovo, where Newmont have a project directly adjacent to us. So what we then did, we covered the whole project with airborne geophysics and geochemistry, and we generated about another 20 targets. So with that one exploration rig, we're just going target to target, just trying to find more. What we're really trying to do here is demonstrate potential for a 20 million ounce system, and that's really the sort of system that is really going to be highly sought after by all the majors that are active in the region. And that brings us to Yandal. So Yandal was the foundation asset for Strickland for many years. It's why most of the shareholders in Strickland invested. It's your classic West Australian Archean gold project. And it's very strategic for its own reasons. The main aspect being it's right next door to Northern Star's Jundee mine. Last year, as I said, Strickland sold the Millrose project for $60 million. That equated to about $175 an ounce. That demonstrates the really high value of ounces next to a hungry mill. Jundee is actually a very old asset now, deep underground. They're starting to get refractory ore. So any oxide or shallow high-grade resources that they can acquire are worth a lot. Their average all-in sustaining costs are about $2,000 an ounce. So any ounces that they can acquire nearby are worth about $2,000 an ounce to Northern Star. So at the moment, we're pretty committed with our exploration here. This year we drilled 20,000 metres at the Horse Well camp. That camp has about 150,000 ounces of oxide resources. And really the goal there for this year was to drill underneath those oxide resources and expand those resources into the fresh rock. And we've had fantastic results, arguably as good as most or any junior on the market. The other important learning that we've got this year from all this work is we've actually figured out where all the resources sit at Horse Well is probably only about a third of the actual gold camp. The rest of the 2/3 is undercover, transported cover to the north. Historical drilling up there was relatively shallow and RAB, and we think it's largely ineffective, and so over the next 12 months we'll look to expand that mineralised footprint north of Palomino undercover. As I said, we've got some great results, so we've been chasing this mineralisation down plunge and at depth, 10 up to 17 metres thick, up to 10 grams per tonne. We get a lot of visible gold here. The metallurgical recovery is over 90%, and all the mineralisation is completely open. Same story at Warmblood. This one's probably my favourite one. It's over 1 kilometre long now. We've managed to stitch together two deposits which were previously thought to be separate. We've drilled in between them and we've connected them now, and the average drilling depth here is just 80 metres. So this is an easy one for us next year to continue growing the resources. We can just chase it a little bit deeper and hopefully get line of sight to get this thing over 500,000 ounces. Okay, so over the next 12 months, as I said, currently we are one of the more active juniors on the market. We're in the midst of an 80,000 metre drill program. We've got 20,000 metres of that next year in WA at Yandal and 60,000 odd metres in Serbia. We're going to deliver at least 3 resource upgrades in Serbia starting in February next year, another one in March and then another one later in the year. And by December we aim to deliver our first scoping study on the project, which will look at stage 1 mine development. As I said earlier, there's 4 deposits, so the way Serbia will be developed is a sequence of one deposit, then the next one, then the next one, and you'll gradually grow the deposit and the mining system that way. And in WA, we're going to drill those 20,000 metres, looking to get north of 500,000 ounces at Yandal, and then we'll do a resource update there as well. So really importantly, all of this work, we're fully funded. So we don't need to raise any money. We can keep doing this work at this pace for another 18 months. So that's very rare, obviously, amongst juniors. And we look forward to continually putting out these great results every 2 or 3 weeks for the next 12 months. So in summary, why should you invest in Strickland and why have I invested? 2 great projects, equally as good as each other, both strategic in their own rights. Serbia's strategic given its ultimate scale. It's going to be really sought after by the majors who are active in the region. Yandal strategic given its proximity to a hungry mill. All of the work we're going to do, the 60 to 80,000 metres of drilling, fully funded. And we think with all of this, we've got more leverage to the gold price and resource growth than just about any company on the market. So when you add all this together, what do you get? We think it's a very clear recipe to create long-term and very sustainable value. So hope you'll join us. Thank you.